Sorry everybody, it's Xilicks here, and welcome back to the Elysian Battle League, Elysian Draft League, whichever. This is week 1 of the power rankings. Last week was the post-draft rankings. This is going to be the first official rankings based on the matches, and this will be the mold for the rest of the weeks. As said, the post-draft power rankings did not influence these at all and will not influence any further power rankings. However, each week will influence each player's score as it goes on, where this week is only based on the first week. Next week will be based on the first 2 weeks. You get the point. So yeah, let's get right into it with our number 16 team. Coming in at number 16, we have Riolu and the Toronto Mucks. Now, Riolu did get 6-0'd this week by, I believe he played Zack? Yeah, he got 6-0'd by Zack, and honestly, I don't think it was his playing that lost him the match. There were a few misplays, and I will get into those. However, I do think it was primarily his team preparation. I would have liked to seen maybe a defensive Crobat to try to take on Bulu, maybe some berries somewhere. I mean, like, he doesn't have any real resist to Tapu Bulu on his team. Like, his only proper grass resist is Crobat, and even like a fully defensive Crobat doesn't take too well to a Wood Hammer into like a second move. A defensive Crobat could have been a pivot though, which I believe he was offensive this week, as he didn't reveal much of his set, so I don't really know. But yeah, maybe some berries or something to take it on. And another big misplay was like he had the Ludicolo in with the rain against a Mon that's immune to grass, and he clicked a grass move instead of a water move. I'm not really sure why. He sacked Blastoise like turn 2. He sacked Manaphy to the Alakazam later on in the match. Really just did not put him in any position to potentially win, which was a bit unfortunate. I think had he prepared a little bit better for this week, he could have won, or at least padded the differential, because getting 6-0'd week 1 is not a great way to start, and I still believe that this team could definitely benefit from some trades or ad drops, as it's still not in a very good position against the other teams that we have in this league. Next up in the number 15 spot, we have Doruk and the Kentucky Fried Combuskin. Now, Doruk did not lose big this week. His loss was not, I believe it was a 0-3, 0-2 loss. It wasn't a huge loss, but the reason why I have this team so low is because of how the match was played. He got Volt turned on really, 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 really superiorly by Infinite. I mean, like, Infinite was just, he didn't even have to predict, because he was just clicking Volt Switch U-turn constantly. I feel that Doruk didn't have any offensive momentum at all. He allowed things like Alomomola to get one shot by a Volt Switch, like Mudsdale got one shot by a Grass Knot. So his defensive mons just, they weren't there this week, I feel. I don't know, it's just, he didn't utilize things like Buzzwole very well. His Darmanitan did pick up a few kills, but Infinite was able to play around it after some recoil damage. And I don't know, I would have liked to see maybe Alakazam that week. It didn't come, but I think the speed would have been nice to, like outspeed Mega Scizor and hit it with a HP Fire, for example, or stuff like that. It's just, I feel he didn't have the speed, really, just because, like, his Darmanitan, he let it go down. That was probably, like, his best answer to all the Volt turning going on, but you don't want to be switching your Darmanitan in on attack, so I don't know. I would have liked to see a bit better playing, maybe some better prep against a team like Infinite's. But yeah, I'm sure in future weeks we'll see Doruk going up the rankings. It's just this first week I have him pretty low because I feel there could have been some better playing in that matchup. Next up in the number 14 position, we have Demonic and the Tampa Bay Rayquaza. Now, I did play Demonic this week, and I won 3-0. It would have been a 5-0 if I, calc some things, but Demonic really did not put himself in a position to win the game ever. There was a little bit of hacks with the Hydreigon, but I would have liked to seen like the Togedemaru not really getting sacked. Granted, he didn't really have a switch into Landorus. Potentially the Hydreigon, but I would have been locked into Earth Power had he scouted for it. Maybe either way, I just feel like he sacked the Togedemaru right away when he could have gone into the Hydreigon. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. He may not have been thinking that. Maybe his plan was just to sack the Togedemaru. I don't know, but he played Glade well towards the end of the match, but I didn't like how he T-waved the Melodic. Maybe he was predicting me to switch out or something, but Thunderwave on Melodic is not a good thing. That just boosted special defense by quite a bit. He tried to set up with Volcarona a bit too early, I feel, as I still had a Sturdymon at full HP. I would have liked to see him break the Sturdy first. Also, the Z flying move I don't think was the right bring. I understand that it would have done superior damage to the Venusaur, but nothing on my team really was like weak to bug move, so maybe he had like 4 move slot syndrome with like a grass move for Melodic, the Z flying move for the Venusaur, maybe a rock move to hit Rotom. I don't know, kind of a weird setup though. I honestly don't know what moves he was running, but he tried to set up with Volcarona way too early. It could have been a late game sweeper had he worn down my walls. He set up Toxic Spikes whenever I still had a Poison type on the field. I think he revealed Destiny Bond a bit too early on Cofagrigus. Had he waited to get worn down and then used it, because he used it at near full health on a Mon that could not nearly OHKO him, so I'm not sure why he did that. He didn't really put himself in a position to get any kills with the Destiny Bond, and I think some better prep, some better playing could see him in better rankings in the future, but this week wasn't too good, and I would still recommend a few team changes, maybe some more hazard removal. Over in the number 13 spot, we have Farouk. Now, Farouk didn't really have anything for Erasmus's team. Whatever. He only really had the Greninja to stop the sub speed pass. Other than that, the Landorus kind of ran through the team if it was behind a substitute, which was unfortunate, as that is definitely something that's very difficult to prepare for and even to react to in the battle. I think he did a decent job of reacting to it. There were maybe a few different plays he could have made towards the end that could have padded the differential a bit more, although I do think that Erasmus had the game won from after the Kingdra play. Now, obviously, I think Farouk could have made some different choices in team building to potentially deal with setup Landorus more, as his team doesn't take too well to Landorus. He does have, a few mons that can take it on, like Bronzong, Delmise, maybe even Hitmonlee. But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, his best option was really just to try to pad the differential a bit at the end, but instead Erasmus ended up getting, I believe it was a 4-0 against Farouk. So yeah, maybe some different playing, some different team building in the future, and he can start to climb up the rankings. In the number 12 spot, I have Agron and the Cork City Cyndaquils. My biggest complaint about Agron was his team building. I really think that the Weavile should have had both the Pursuit and the Ice Shard. I understand that you don't want too much priority when there's a Psychic Terrain. However, the Ice Shard does still hit the Latios even through Psychic Terrain, as it's not grounded. As well as Pursuit is really good against things like the Victini, like the Latios, and also Ice Shard for even a potential Mega Pinsir. I don't know why it wasn't brought. I don't know why Fake Out was the option over it. I believe somebody mentioned that it was to stop webs on the Galvantula, But in my opinion, that shouldn't have been a concern, as the team has a defogger, it has a spinner. He could have utilized those instead of losing a move on the Weavile. I personally would have ran Ice Shard, Poison Jab with the Poison EMZ, Pursuit, and then Knockoff. But obviously, hindsight is 2020. He probably, or sorry, Low Kick instead of Knockoff for the Red Steel. But yeah, hindsight's 2020, as I've said many times. So obviously, he probably wasn't in the same mindset that I'm in now. But I still think at the very least, Ice Shard and Pursuit should have been on the Weavile set, as it would have won him the game at the end. He did put himself in a position to lose towards the end. Basically, his only win condition was critting with either the Floatzel or the Weavile fake out, because he knew that he didn't have the Ice Shard. The rest of the match was played pretty well by Agron, minus the fact that he knew that Joey's team was weak to Weavile, and he just didn't bring the right set, and it ended up losing him the match. Maybe he will, hopefully in the future, look over his team and the opponent's team to try to capitalize on stuff like that. Obviously, running a tech Weavile with Sash fake out is good, but on a team that's so weak to Weavile, I wouldn't run a utility set. That's just my opinion, though. Other than that, as said, his playing was very well, and I'm sure that he's going to be skyrocketing these rankings as the season goes on. Just had a rough start week 1. Number 11 spot, I have Yodeler and the Chicago Cub Shoes. The purpose for this is, while I feel the way he lost wasn't really something he could have prepared for as far as team building goes. I think his team building was fine. That being said, I think his playing in the match was pretty poor. I think whenever the Finny got the passes, he probably shouldn't have sacked both the Shaman and the Umbreon. I understand if maybe he needed a certain amount of damage from the Shaman to be able to kill it potentially with the Excadrill, with the Poison EMZ, which he did have. I don't know the calc, but had he been able to OHKO the Finny with the Excadrill, I would have switched directly from the Umbreon to the Excadrill, and if the Excadrill doesn't live a +2 Moonblast, then sack either the Umbreon or the Shaman, and then go in the Excadrill. Again, I don't know the calc off the top of my head. Maybe he needed the damage, but because he had to sack both of those defensive mons, the Garchomp was pretty much able to run through his team once the sand was set up, and then eventually the Quick Feet Jolteon at the end, killing off the, I believe, Scarf Moxie Heracross. Had the Driller potentially been saved, or the Hippowdon potentially been saved and the Driller sacked to the Garchomp, once the sand wore off, maybe Hippowdon could have worn down things like the Garchomp, and then the Heracross maybe could have came in, knocked out the Garchomp, and then Hippowdon in on the Jolteon, let the Jolteon die to Flame Orb, maybe, and then the Heracross could have swept, maybe. But because he wasn't able to reset his special defense on the Heracross after the close combat, it easily went down to the Jolteon's attack. Again, I don't really think he could have prepared for what happened with the pass into Finny, but I think he could have played around it a bit better in the game. Again, I don't know the calcs, so maybe maybe he made the right plays and just was in a position to lose. But yeah, I would have played it a little bit differently if able. Number 10 spot, I have Swagzire and the Green Bay Sandslashers. Now, Swagzire, this match was a little weird. I feel that he didn't really have the required offense to take down the Skarmory and Snorlax. I would have liked to see a different fighting move on the Beware. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure which fighting move it gets, like all of them, but if it does get Hammer Arm, I would have liked to seen that over the Superpower for the Snorlax specifically. Just because with the Superpower, you can't spam it as you're losing your physical attack. Again, I don't know if it gets Hammer Arm, but I pretty sure it gets Drain Punch, and even that would have been better against the Snorlax. As far as the rest of the Mons, I didn't like how he pretty much put himself in a position to lose to Greninja at the end. I also didn't really like how the Garchomp maybe wasn't played as well as it could have. I would have liked to see a different set on the Garchomp, maybe even potentially like a defensive Rocky Helmet set with like Dragon Tail to 1v1 the Snorlax, so it can't like set up curses and stuff. Maybe I get the reasoning behind the Fire Z Crystal to hit the Skarmory, but it's pretty obvious, if you're bringing your Chomp in on a Skarmory, like, and it's your Zmon, you probably have the Fire EMZ, and obviously it was played around, and it didn't end up working. Jack played around it, so I don't know. I think there could have been some different prep to maybe break through those walls a bit better. Again, both those walls are very slow, so he had the options to run things like Modest Natures, items like Specs, Life Orb, stuff like that to potentially do more damage. But yeah, at the end of the day, he did play pretty well. There was a little bit of hacks in the battle, and at the end, he did kind of put himself in a position to lose to Greninja. So it is what it is. He didn't lose too bad, though, which is why he's one of the higher up teams. In the number 9 placement, we have Joey, coach of the Murkrows. Now, Joey did end up winning this week, but he put himself in a position to lose had the Weavile had Ice Shard. Now, I would have liked to see some more scouting with the Registeel. He maybe didn't know that the Floatzel got the fighting coverage to kill the Registeel from that range, but I'm pretty sure he did have Protect on his set, so I would have liked to see the scouting. He played Aromatisse pretty well with the Wish Passing into things like War Turtle and whatnot. I believe he also passed a pretty big Wish off to the Latios when it was pretty low, which did end up winning him the game, so that was a good play thinking long term there. Again, he would have lost, though, had the Weavile had the Ice Shard. But I guess really what he was doing at the end was like to pad his differential or whatever. He tried to set up with Lottie kind of early on. I didn't really like that. If there was like a potential pursuit trap, the Lottie would have been gone and he probably would have lost the game. I did like the Scarf Victini. That was pretty good this week. It put in some work. It was able to live a pretty strong Stone Edge from the Aerodactyl. I think maybe he could have switched in Aromatisse more as a defensive pivot, like things like the Floatzel, for example, so he wouldn't have had to lose his Registeel. Also, with the Galvantula, he had a decent opportunity to set up webs, but instead he let it go down. I think if he did set up the webs, it would have forced, obviously, Agron to go for a Rapid Spin, which could have potentially given him some time to set up with the Lottie again, or even like get the Victini in there for big damage, whatever it ends up being. But yeah, I think in future weeks he's going to have to look out for big threats like Weavile to his team. Again, I don't think Agron brought the right set to face Joey's team, and that probably led to Joey being able to win. But yeah, good job on winning, and let's move on to the next ranking. In the number 8 position, we have Zen and the South Florida Selbies. Now, I feel Zen played the match very well. Up until the point where he got hacked on the Flygon. He did hit himself in confusion, but the only person to blame for that really is himself. If he didn't want to get hit in confusion, he probably shouldn't have brought Outrage, or if he was going to bring Outrage, maybe he should have brought Lum, as he did have the Yachi Berry, where the Yachi Berry didn't even really end up working. I understand that the thought was probably, okay, I want to set up on something that hits me with an Ice move, I take the Yachi Berry damage, and then I can spam Outrage, which, again, it would have worked had he not hit himself in the confusion, but I think since he was planning to do Spore setup, then maybe he should have, spored with the Smeargle, gone into the Flygon as he did, set up, and then had the Lumberry instead of Yachi Berry. That's just my personal thought on it, though. Again, hindsight is 2020. He probably wasn't thinking of that scenario the same way that I am whenever he was team building. I did like the play where he got Mawile back up to full health, but he did nearly lose it to the Thunderous pretty early on in the game. He played his Smeargle pretty well with, like sporing things up until the end where he really couldn't do anything. I would have liked to potentially seen some Volt turning into the Mega Mawile. He does have quite a few options for that. He has Volt Switch on the Electros, U-turn on the Flygon, U-turn on the Jirachi. So he does have the potential to, Volt Switch on certain Mons and then get a free switch into his Mawile and just start putting in the damage. That didn't really happen, but again, what are you going to do? That probably wasn't his plan, but that could have potentially been a little bit better for this matchup to wear down some of Cubchoo's certain Mons. But yeah, other than the hacks, I think he played pretty well. In the number 7 spot, we have Cubchoo and the Springfield Spoinks. Now, Cubchoo did win versus Zen. However, he would have lost most likely had the Flygon been able to not hit itself in confusion. I would have liked that once he spored the Aerodactyl, he should have kept it as sleep fodder, and while the Flygon was setting up, he should have gone into the Vaporeon, because I'm pretty sure Vaporeon takes a +1 Thunder Punch if he's max defense and then strikes back with an Ice Beam. As it was revealed, though, the Flygon was running the Yachi Berry, so potentially may not have mattered. I don't know the calcs off the top of my head as to how much damage Flygon would be doing if it only got the chance to set up once, but I didn't like the fact that he stayed in with Aerodactyl, allowing Flygon to set up to the point where it could OHKO something like the Vaporeon. Again, I don't know the calcs, but yeah, he was a bit risky throughout the match with some of his offensive mons. He allowed his Thundurus to get knocked off. He took quite a bit of damage on the Infernape pretty early on. The Serena dropped pretty quickly, but other than that, he did play Thunderous late game pretty well, and also the Bulk Up Mew was a very nice tech for a lot of the physical offense that Zen has on his team, like the Mega Mawile and things like the Jirachi. I just can't speak today. I've been recording for like 25, 30 minutes or something. It just cut me a break, but again, yeah, he didn't really play Aerodactyl too well. I didn't like that he let it get... Well, I like that he let it get spored. I didn't like that he let the Flygon set up on the sleeping Aerodactyl. Yeah, I don't know. It was what it was. I'm sure, though, that in the future, setup may not be too much of a problem, as he does have a Prankstermon with the Liepard. Again, Prankster T-Wave would not have worked on the Flygon because it's a ground type, but, it is what it is. Yeah, this team, he let it get worn down to the point where he would have been set up on, which is why I have him as one of the lower teams that was a winner this week. Number 6 spot, I have Jack and the Los Angeles Galvantulas. I really liked the play with Skarmory and Snorlax. He preserved the two well up until the end game, where he allowed himself to get a win with Greninja. He did get haxed a little bit, but it ended up not mattering. He missed the Toxic on the Slowbro, and he got Scald Burned. I think he got crit, maybe. Yeah, he got crit on the Celebi, although I don't know the calc on whether or not the Celebi would have lived. But he did play very well defensively, and I liked that he wore down Swagzire's team to the point where Greninja could just win at the end. He managed hazards well. I think, he was playing very intelligently throughout the whole game, and it did end up leaving him with a victory. So he did a very good job, and that's why he's one of the higher teams this week. In the number 5 spot, we have Kraft in the Man-Chestnut Skitty. I did not really like the early gameplay too much with things like Typhlosion and whatnot. But then once he passed the workup stats into the Tapu Finny, it really changed the momentum in his direction. He was wish passing very effectively with the Licky Licky. He utilized Garchomp very well in the sand, and then Quick Feet Jolteon came through at the end to prevent the Heracross cleanup sweep. Other than that, I mean, Finny was just defensive wall and an offensive threat with the stats passed to it. And I'm sure that he's going to utilize Finny very well in future weeks as well. And if this week is anything to show for it, then people should definitely be afraid of that Tapu Fini because it is going to be putting in work in future weeks, I imagine. In the number 4 spot, I have myself and the Detroit Torcats. I think that I would have won 5-0 if I wasn't dumb at the end and like didn't calc the whole Gallade thing. He did crit the Rotom, which did prevent the 5-0 as well, but that doesn't really matter. My better play was just to go into Venusaur at the end. I would have been fine. I think I played very safely around things like the Ditto in team prep, as far as running things like only Earth Power on Landorus, so I could switch into Rotom 100% of the time. Running the Grassium Z on the Pangoro to be able to kill my own Melodic in case he copied that. Running things like just ways to take on my whole team. I like facing Ditto because it gives me a challenge in team prep because I'm pretty much prepping for 2 potential teams. Otherwise, though, my Firewater Grass Core pretty much commanded the whole match defensively. He didn't really have any way of breaking through. I stopped the setup well with the Volcarona. I did hacks the Hydreigon a bit, but it probably didn't matter in the length of things as other Mons on my team took on Hydreigon very well. Rotom could have worn it down with a burn. Mega Venusaur takes hits for days. Even Donphan could have Ice Sharded it, whatnot. So other than that, I think I played well up until the last couple turns where I choked away the 5-0 victory. But yeah, I have myself pretty high, but not too high, just because I didn't get that 5-0. Had I done a bit better, I'd probably be a bit higher on the rankings. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that match. Number 3 spot, we have the Gallades, coached by Erasmus and like co-coached by Orp. I don't know the whole situation there. But anyways, he brought Speed Pass this week. I think that Farouk's team is probably one of the better teams to bring Speed Passing against, just because he has, a Charizard that can set up. He has the Ash Greninja, which is insanely fast. He has quite a lot of speed, like Z Kyurem, which we did even see with running the +2 speed from the Hail. I think that he did a good job to preserve his differential well at the very end by switching out the Blastoise when it could have potentially died to the Delmise, as well as the Focus Energy Pass. Kingdra was really weird. It worked, but it was really weird. I like it, but it was weird. I've never. That's like, there's creative team building, and then there's also like weird team building. And I feel like that goes under the category of weird team building. I liked it though, and he made it work, so that's why he's up so high at number 3. Would have been a little bit higher had he maybe shown, like better playing. Does that make sense? Because his prep was fantastic, but his actual playing in the match wasn't really too much to gawk at. I mean, he kind of just passed speed, and then got some kills, and then let his Landers die, and then passed speed into Kingdra, got some kills, and then let his Kingdra die. And he took some hits with the Blastoise, and then he took a hit with the Magearna, and like that was the game, So it wasn't necessarily his good playing that got him up so high, but his good prep for week 1. In the number 2 spot, we have Nick Infinite, coach of the Chicago Chandelures. I said that like that intentionally. Don't you guys comment. But anyways, he pretty much Volturned like the whole match and dominated with it. Like, even though he was losing Mons and he didn't win by the highest differential this week at all by any means, but he just played so well. Like, he was just making good plays constantly. He was constantly in offensive control, constantly in defensive control, sacked Mons when he needed to. He wish passed well with the Kamala. He pretty much never allowed Doruk to get offensive momentum, except for whenever the Darmanitan came in and got some kills. But even then, like, he knew what to sack to wear down the Darmanitan and then eventually kill it. He even utilized Pursuit well. Like, the combination of, like, using Pursuit, using Volt Turn, you just control the match. You control the switches. You know, it's not even like you don't even really have to be predicting too much whenever you're Volt Turning and pursuing well, just because, like, I don't know, like his whole team was basically like passing high fives to each other the whole time, whether it was a wish pass, baton, Volt switching, U-turn. It was entertaining to watch. You know, it was just a good performance. He played well. You know, he had the right prep. He just did everything right. He didn't have the best differential, but he did what he needed to do to win the game. And that's what we're looking for here on the power rankings. We're looking for, you know, people who are playing the game to the max potential that they can be. And I really felt that was done by Infinite this week. Over in the number 1 spot, we have Zack and the Kentucky Torcats. I actually spelled it right this time, so calm down, everyone. But yeah, so pretty much his offensive threats, they came onto the field, they got kills. His defensive mons, they came on the field, they took damage. He 6-0'd Riolu. He played the way he needed to win. He preserved the 6-0 well. Bulu was just phenomenal this week. It just bodied everything. Mega Absol even put in work. Alakazam picked up a kill. You know, it was just it was a clean match by Zack, and you know, he really deserves the number 1 spot this week from his week 1 performance alone. I did have a few negative things to say about the draft early on, but after that performance, I think that, you know, he knows how to work his team, and I'm sure we'll see some good stuff from him from the whole rest of the season. All right, so that is going to conclude the Week 1 Power Rankings. Keep in mind that this is primarily opinionated, but I try to be as objectively correct as I can be based on the matches. That's going to be it for this week. I'll see you guys next time. Okay, thanks, bye.